Battle Through the Heavens, Grand World. Chapter 6. Transformation Emperor Gate. After an unknown period of time, a dragon's roar was heard from Zukun's mouth. He stretched his body and scolded, "This nine-nether monarch bug is too strong. He is countless times stronger than ancient monarch Tuo Shi." Xiao Yan and the other three who had already recovered from their injuries smiled bitterly and nodded. This was the first time they had stepped into the fighting monarch. The legendary invincible fighting monarch actually felt powerless. However, that young man formed from the fusion of the 9 profound golden thunder and the heavenly flame is even more powerful. What's going on? Zhu Kun looked at Xiao Yan, his dragon eyes filled with shock. Xiao Yan shook his head. He had also asked the Xiaoyi about this matter, but the Xiaoyi could not say anything about it. He could only feel that the lightning dragon mark on his chest had greatly increased his energy. The power of the heavenly flame he casted had become much stronger, and all the heavenly flames had a qualitative leap. Forget it. We'll talk about this in the future. I don't know how much time has passed. Let's get moving. Guyuan looked at Xiao Yan, who was frowning and deep in thought, and said. Xiao Yan came back to his senses and looked at the endless space in the distance. His eyes lit up again and he nodded. That's right. We should find out where this matter is going. After saying that, he turned into a ray of light and shot forward. Guyuan and the other three looked at each other. They could see the fanaticism in each other's eyes. The four of them smiled at each other and turned into a ray of light, following Xiao Yan. Although the 5 rays of light were moving at an extremely fast speed, in this seemingly endless space black hole, the speed of the 5 of them was like a turtle as they slowly moved forward. Fortunately, there were no more attackers, which made them feel relieved. After an unknown number of days, when the darkness in the surroundings was gradually replaced by light, a huge door of light that was millions of feet tall appeared in front of the 5 of them. Within the door of light, 3 huge golden words appeared, Transformation Emperor Gate. Feeling the tremendous force that made one's heart tremble, Xiao Yan exhaled a few breaths of air. He steadied his trembling heart and looked at the 3 big words. He mumbled, Transformation Emperor Gate. What do you mean? Ji Yuan looked at the few majestic words beside the light door. He couldn't help but read, Transformation Emperor Gate, entering the fetus, leaping into the dragon realm. Disperse the mixed combat qi and absorb the immortal sovereign qi. With the power of immortality, you can enter the great world. Quote. After hearing this, Xiao Yan and the others looked at each other. They couldn't help but look into the door of light. Inside the door of light, golden light was rolling and purple qi was sparkling, reflecting thousands of different colors. Xuan frowned and suddenly said, I understand. If we want to enter the world behind the light door, we have to pass through this light door. After entering this Emperor Transformation Gate, the combat qi in our bodies will transform into Origin Monarch qi. Only then can we enter that world. Quote. After a slight smile, Xuan turned her head and looked at Xiao Yan. Quote. Furthermore, it seems like with the Origin qi, it will be very easy for us to jump ranks and challenge others. Quote. Guyuan and the others immediately came to a realization when they heard this. They remembered that they had used all their strength to deal with 9 nether monarch bug but did not cause much damage to him. It was likely that 9 nether monarch bug's do qi contained some origin qi. Although it was not very pure, it was far better than do qi. Xiao Yan also nodded his head when he sensed it. Back then, he had used the strength of a Do Wang to defeat Yun Shan, who was a Do Zong. Now, he was at the same level as 9 nether monarch bug. Although the stronger one's strength was, the more difficult it was to challenge. This also indirectly showed the difference between Do qi and origin qi. The Do qi will disappear after entering. Zhu Kun frowned and asked. He was an old dragon who had lived for 10,000 years and regarded the combat power in his body as life. Now that the combat power suddenly disappeared, Zhu Kun felt uneasy. Xiao Yan smiled and his eyes were burning. Since that's the case, let's go in. Once we enter the Emperor Transformation Gate, we will become the real fighting monarch. At that time, let alone 9 nether monarch bug, we won't be afraid even if we are 100 times stronger than him. After saying that, he rushed towards the Transformation Emperor Gate. Guyuan, Kai Lin, and Xuan hurriedly followed after him. Zhu Kun gritted his teeth and followed behind. As soon as they entered the Transformation Emperor Gate, countless rays of light enveloped the 5 of them. In that instant, all of them felt weak all over, as if the most important part of their body had been forcibly taken away by an irresistible force. But in the next moment, a source energy that made people's souls tremble suddenly filled every part of their bodies. The 5 of them felt an even more powerful and pure energy rising spontaneously. The true power of the fighting monarch. As the 5 of them felt the pleasure brought by this energy. The 5 streams of combat power that belonged to the fighting monarch that were taken from the 5 of them, after being infected by some pure origin chi, flew towards the direction of the fighting chi continent at a speed that could not be seen with the naked eye. In fighting chi continent, it had been a year since the Flame Emperor, Xiao Yan, and Guyuan broke through the sky and left. During this year, due to the origin chi that Xiao Yan had captured back then, the cultivation of some powerful experts had advanced by leaps and bounds. Compared to a year ago, the strength level of the fighting chi continent had increased by quite a bit. The Sky Mansion Alliance, Star Pavilion. Yao Lao and Xiao Xiao were testing a new batch of disciples who had just entered the Star Pavilion. These disciples were all geniuses from different places. Hence, Yao Lao was quite satisfied. Looking at the thousands of disciples who were full of energy on the square, a low voice mixed with powerful Do Chi sounded in everyone's ears. You are all geniuses, and the Star Pavilion is also a place to nurture geniuses. I won't say anything else. Within a year, those disciples who have not broken through to the Do Huang class should leave by themselves. After saying that, he ignored the surprised expressions of the people below and turned around. Just as he was about to leave, his expression suddenly changed. His gaze looked toward the vast sky and his expression changed slightly. Xiao Xiao, who was also looking at the sky, thought for a while and a joyful expression suddenly appeared on her delicate and pretty face. This is the power of the origin monarch chi. It was actually so dense. Its father and the others. Yao Lao pursed his lips. His eyes were moist as he mumbled. Little things, you've succeeded, right? In the next moment, Yao Lao suddenly turned around and shouted at the disciples below who did not know what was going on. Now that there are enough fighting chi and origin chi in the entire fighting chi continent, all of you should work hard in your cultivation. Within a year, those who have yet to become a Do Zong will automatically leave. Such rich origin monarch chi. At the same time, all the Do Shengs and even the Do Zuns of the Yan clan, Lei clan, Pill Tower, Jiyu clan and the ancient Void Dragon, as well as the experts of the Do Zuns and even the Do Zongs, sensed the Shao clans. Almost all of the old monsters of the Do Sheng class were so excited that their eyes were filled with tears. There is hope for the Sovereign Road. It's the Flame Emperor. He succeeded. The sound of joy reverberated in every corner of the continent. Chapter End. Chapter 7. The Great World. When that sudden surge of power comes to an end, Xiao Yan slowly opened his eyes. He felt the origin monarch chi filling his body. Xiao Yan was confident that if he fought 9 Nether Monarch Bug, although he didn't dare to say that he could kill 9 Nether Monarch Bug, he could still severely injure him. Looking around, Xiao Yan saw Guyuan, Zhu Kun, and the other 3. At this moment, they gradually opened their eyes and felt the powerful origin monarch chi in their bodies. Guyuan and the others' eyes were filled with incomparable ecstasy. This is the true strength of the fighting monarch. It's intoxicating. I finally know why all the fighting monarchs in the fighting chi continent broke through the void and left. Ji Yu Yuan's voice was trembling due to excitement. Compared to the strength of fighting chi continent, this kind of strength should belong to the fighting monarch. Zhu Kun said excitedly, Brother Gu is right. Besides, I can feel that there is an even stronger origin monarch chi outside the door of light. This is what the fighting monarch needs to cultivate. Hearing Guyuan and Zhu Kun's excited words, Xiao Yan looked at Kai Lin. Xuan and Kai Lin smiled slightly. He grabbed their hands and looked at the sparkling light screen in front of him. Their eyes were filled with determination as they said, Father, Uncle Zhu, let's go. This is where we truly fight. After saying this, Xiao Yan let out a long roar. He pulled the 2 girls, whose faces were also filled with excitement, and rushed into the light screen. The heavenly flame on Xiao Yan's body emerged and formed a light curtain. It protected Kai Lin, Xuan and himself. Guyuan and Zhu Kun also laughed out loud. With a movement of his body, a layer of white light appeared on the surface of Guyuan's body. Zhu Kun's body was covered with countless golden dragon scales. The 2 of them looked at each other and smiled. They had also rushed into the gateway to the great world. After the 5 of them entered, the light screen lit up. The dots rippled, and then they quickly returned to calm. This endless space, along with the Transformation Emperor Gate, also stood there quietly. After an unknown amount of time, an aged voice suddenly sounded from this space. Here. There's actually the aura of fragments. However, it's too weak, so it's not very useful. As soon as the words left his mouth, this space actually fiercely shattered, forming an empty belt that was 1,000,000 jong in length. That Transformation Emperor Gate also began to shake violently at this time, as if it could not withstand the power of this sentence. The old voice was surprised, and then a sound of air being blown could be heard. In an instant, the space was restored to its original state, and the Emperor Transformation Gate was also firmly standing. If this space is destroyed, those brats from the small world will be very busy. The old voice lightly laughed, and then sighed. That small place doesn't have anything related to the fragment. Forget it. The old voice paused, and then mumbled, Tuo Shi. After that, it was a long time of silence, as if he had left. After which, this space once again returned to its calm state. Only the deep tegens of the enormous Emperor Transformation Gate seemed to have left behind a trace of a purple gaseous substance that was as small as a mustard seed. Light flashed in front of Xiaoyan's eyes. When he opened his eyes again, what entered his eyes was a huge square that he couldn't see with a single glance. There were several hundred jong tall black hole whirlpools in the sky above the square. Xiaoyan and the others turned around and saw a huge black hole whirlpool behind them. There were 4 big golden words written on it: Fighting Qi Continent. Xiaoyan took a deep breath. Immediately, he felt a strong origin monarch qi entering his body, causing the origin qi in his body to resonate. Xiaoyan looked at the world in shock and mumbled, "This is the world that belongs to the fighting monarch." While Xiaoyan and the other 3 were breathing greedily, a soft laugh came from the sky. Xiaoyan quickly raised his head and saw an old man with white hair. His face was filled with shock as he landed on the ground. He looked at the 5 of them in disbelief. When he felt the tremendous pressure from the old man, Xiaoyan was startled. Just as he was about to speak, the old man impatiently said, "You guys are from Fighting Qi Continent." The old man was shocked when he saw the 5 of them nod their heads. How is this possible? How is this possible? Fighting Qi Continent said that it had been close to 10,000 years since someone had broken through to the fighting monarch realm. Why are there 5 of them today? As he spoke, he sized up Xiaoyan and the other 3 men. His eyes were filled with shock. Being stared at by the old man without any restraint, Xuan and the other 2 women's faces turned slightly red. Xiaoyan also coughed lightly and cupped his fists. "Senior." The old man came back to his senses and laughed. He said with a serious expression, "I, Su Feng, am the person in charge of this region. I am in charge of welcoming the new fighting monarch." The 5 of them cupped their hands in succession and reported their names. Su Feng stroked his long beard and looked at Xiaoyan, Xuan and Kai Lin. Kai Lin nodded her head in satisfaction. "Not bad, not bad. There are 3 of you geniuses in Fighting Qi Continent. Truly inconceivable," Xiaoyan said modestly. "Senior Su, you flatter me." Quote. Su Feng smiled and nodded. He flicked his finger and shot 5 beams of light at the 5 of them. "This is a scroll introducing a great world. Take a closer look. If you don't understand, you can ask me." After Xiaoyan and the others expressed their thanks to Su Feng, the 5 of them sat together cross-legged. Then, the heavenly flame within Xiaoyan's body appeared and wrapped around the 5 of them. After that, he immersed his soul force into the scroll in his hand. "Careful little fellow." Quote. Su Feng faintly smiled. His gaze glanced at the flames that wrapped around the 5 of them. After thinking for a moment, he muttered, "What a strange flame. It looks a little like a chaos great monarch flame, but at the same time, it doesn't seem like it." Quote. As soon as his soul force entered the scroll, Xiaoyan felt countless information entering his mind. Immediately, his soul force shook, pushing away the huge amount of information. Only then did Xiaoyan continue reading. With curiosity. Endless. These were the 4 big words on the first page of the scroll. The short words made Xiaoyan instantly feel that the world was vast and boundless. Sighing, Xiaoyan continued reading. The great world was divided into 10 regions, and it was located in the middle domain in the middle of the sky. The Star Moon Spirit Domain in the Land of Star Sky, and the Mingyan Divine Domain in the Land of Divine Heaven were the three most powerful regions. The Saint and Heaven domains in the Saint Heaven realm were the two most mysterious domains. As for the Barbarian domain of the Eastern Wastelands, the Forest domain was filled with endless dangers. The Battle domain of the Northern World, the Nether domain was a mysterious place where the strong were like a forest. Lastly, it was the Spirit domain of the Southern Heaven realm, and it was also a place where all clans fought for supremacy. Until he finished reading the scroll, Xiaoyan's heart could not calm down for a long time. In the Great World, the Fighting Monarch was actually just the beginning. Above the Fighting Monarch, there was an even more powerful existence. They were the true experts. As expected of a great world, Xiaoyan licked his lips. His gaze condensed and unparalleled will as he mumbled, "This is exactly what I was hoping for." Chapter End. Chapter 8. Yun Luo Academy. Xiaoyan opened his eyes and his heart was filled with excitement. He looked at Xuan Kai Lin, and the others. The four of them were still immersed in the scroll, but there was some excitement and yearning on each of their faces. Xiaoyan withdrew his gaze and the heavenly flame that wrapped around them. Su Feng also appeared at the right time. He looked at Xiaoyan with a smile and said, "Xiaoyan, how is it? This big world is the true stage for the strong. The lower realm continent is just a foil." Xiaoyan let out a long breath. His voice was trembling with excitement. As expected of a great world. With just a few words of introduction, I can feel an unparalleled aura. Xiaoyan praised. As the two of them spoke, Xuan and the other three also stood up. Their eyes were filled with yearning and excitement. Guyuan looked around and respectfully said to Su Feng, "Senior, according to the scroll, there are 10 regions in the Great World. Which region does this belong to?" Su Feng smiled and said, "I forgot to tell you, this place is a special spatial zone built by Heavenly Sovereign Expert. It is specifically used to welcome the next advancement to the Fighting Monarch realm. It is called the New Sovereign World. It can be considered a small spatial zone. This spatial zone is located in Forest Domain. There are many such spatial zones in every region." After a pause, Su Feng pointed at the spatial zone and said, "This square in front of you." Although it looked vast and boundless, it was in fact only a few hundred meters in size. It was considered a formation, and outside the formation was the new Emperor World. As he spoke, Su Feng took out a jade pendant and inserted a sliver of Origin Monarch Chi into it. The jade pendant instantly lit up. In the next moment, the endless space in front of Xiaoyan quietly collapsed. What appeared in front of everyone was a square. The square was very big, and there were several wooden houses standing around it. These wooden houses were built by some major powers. These powers can be considered to be average in the Great World. Basically, there are 1 or 2 heavenly sovereign experts in the sects, and they recruit new fighting monarchs here all year round. I suggest that you all join a sect when you just arrived. After saying this, Su Feng lightly pinched the jade pendant. After the light faded, Su Feng's figure disappeared. Join the sect. Xiaoyan looked at the four of them and thought for a moment. "Father and Uncle Zhu, what do you think?" Guyuan pondered for a moment. He sighed and said with a bitter smile, "To be honest, I don't really want to join." Zhu Kun, who was next to him, also nodded. Xuan smiled and said, "Father and Uncle Zhu have been in high positions in Fighting Qi continent for a long time. I think they are not willing to join a sect and be bullied as a junior disciple." Being exposed by Xuan words in their hearts, Guyuan and Uncle Zhu's faces turned red. Kai Lin, who was beside, also said, "I also agree with father's opinion. Being a little disciple who was ordered by someone, it would be better to go and adventure by yourself." Xiaoyan also nodded. This was not because they cared about their reputation. It was mainly because of the confidence and imposing manner in their hearts, which made them unwilling to lower their heads. This could be considered a common trait of the fighting monarch of lower realm, especially Xiaoyan and the others. In the Fighting Qi continent, which lacked Origin Monarch Qis, every step of improvement was earned through their own efforts. The pride and dignity in their hearts was much stronger than the fighting monarchs in the other continents. "Big brother Xiaoyan, why don't we join that academy?" Just as everyone was silent, Xuan suddenly said. Xiaoyan and the others looked in the direction where Xuan was pointing and saw an ordinary wooden house in the northeast corner. There was a green stone that was as tall as a man standing on it. There were 4 big and powerful words carved on the stone: Yunluo Academy. Xiao Yan was overjoyed. College. These 2 words were absolutely meaningful to him. His life as a powerhouse started from the college. In the end, he obtained the treasure that allowed him to advance to the fighting monarch from the academy. Xiao Yan immediately said, "Father, Uncle Zhu, Kai Lin, we can join that academy. According to my experience, the academy should be quite free." She seemed to know that this was the best ending. Guyuan and the other 2 did not have any objections. They all nodded in agreement. The 5 of them walked into the small wooden house of Yunluo Academy. The house was very small, and there was only an old man in a white robe and an ancient wooden table inside. When he heard that someone had come in, the old man who was dozing sat down immediately. He couldn't help but laugh when he saw Xiao Yan and the other 3. "Welcome. Little guys, are you all going to join the Yunluo Academy?" The old man's eyes swept across the 5 of them like a hungry wolf. His face was full of smiles. Yes. Xiao Yan felt depressed. He had just arrived in the great world and had already met 2 old men. They were both strange old men, and they were all looking at him and his group with strange gazes. After hearing what Xiao Yan said, the old man was immediately overjoyed and asked for their names. He projected the images of the 5 people into a white jade bead, then stood up and took out 5 scrolls from the table. He threw them at each of them. He smiled at Xiao Yan and the others, who looked puzzled, and said, "Since the establishment of the Yunluo Academy, there has been a rule that every new student who wants to join the academy must complete a type of training. Only those who have met the requirements can be accepted. What you are holding in your hands is an empty scroll, which is personally made by the dean. Depending on your mind, the scroll will be based on your mind. The soul and the others will be able to combine to form a trial that the 5 of you will need to complete." Following the old man's guidance, Xiao Yan and the other 3 closed their eyes. Their minds were immersed in the blank scroll in their hands. After a moment, the scroll in Kai Lin's hands emitted 6 different lights. After that, Xuan also released 6 different lights. The old man secretly nodded his head, and very quickly, the scrolls in Zhu Kun and Guyuan's hands released 7 different types of light almost at the same time. The 4 of them opened their eyes and looked at the glowing scrolls in their hands. Then they looked at Xiao Yan, who still had his eyes closed. After a long time, the scroll in Xiao Yan's hands did not move at all. The old man's eyes twitched. Could it be? Before he could finish his thought, the scroll in Xiao Yan's hand suddenly released 10 rays of light. The brilliant rays of light instantly filled the small house. The old man's face was instantly filled with shock, and then it quickly turned into wild joy. His excited voice was almost shouting out, "Saint level trial." Chapter end. Chapter 9. Holy level trial. It's actually a holy rank trial. The old man looked at Xiao Yan with a burning gaze and kept praising him. Xiao Yan, who opened his eyes, couldn't help but ask, "Senior, what is a holy rank trial?" The old man calmed his excitement and said, "The Yunluo Academy's smelting trial is divided into 4 levels. The 3 light rays are the lower level smelting trial, the 6 light rays are the middle level smelting trial, the 9 light rays are the higher level smelting trial, and the 10 light rays are the holy rank trial. In the past 100 years, there have been more than 10 new disciples in the Yunluo Academy who have reached the level of holy rank trials. I never thought that you, little fellow, have also reached the level of holy rank trials." Xiao Yan also smiled in shock. He looked at the scrolls in Xuan and the other 3's hands and said, "Senior, what kind of trial do we need to undergo?" The old man smiled. "Because you are a holy rank trial, the 4 of them were directly recruited. You will complete your holy rank trial by yourself. This was the privilege of a saint rank trial participant. The dean said that being able to reach the standards of a holy rank trial itself is a symbol of strength." Kai Lin frowned and said discontentedly, "What is the meaning of this? Do you all think that we can't finish our own trials?" Xiao Yan went forward and held Kai Lin's hand. He smiled and said, "Kai Lin, this is a great world. For us, who are still weak, there are dangers everywhere. If you enter the academy one day earlier, your strength can also increase a little earlier." Kai Lin heard this and snorted lightly. She did not say anything else. Xuan frowned and said, "But it seems like the holy rank trial is very difficult. Didn't dear Xiao Yan also encounter many dangers?" Xiao Yan smiled and said, Xuan trust me. Besides, I also need to train. In fighting Qi continent, I have been idle for too long. The old man looked at their conversation with a smile and waited for Xiao Yan to finish speaking. Little guy, holy rank trials are not only full of danger. They also need great luck and luck. Open the scroll and see what the requirements are. Xiao Yan let go of Kai Lin's hand and tore it open. The 10 beams of light instantly disappeared from the scroll and were replaced by several golden words flashing in the air. Holy rank trial, time limit, 15 years. Requirement 1. Obtain 5 middle rank heavenly beast monster cores. Requirement 2. Obtain 10 million monarch crystals. Requirement 3. Obtain the highest honor of any prefecture's competition. Looking at these few words, Xiao Yan could not help but feel dizzy. What kind of trial was this? It was simply impossible to complete the requirements. The first item, the 5 final middle rank heavenly beast monster cores, was a powerful existence equivalent to a monarch emperor level. Any one of them could dominate a region. It was probably even more terrifying than Su Feng and the old man in front of him. If he wanted 5 of their monster cores, he would have to kill 5 monarch emperor level devil beasts. With his fighting monarch strength, he wouldn't even know how he died. Of course, he could buy them. However, a monarch emperor level heavenly beast's monster core was probably worth more than 1 million monarch crystals. Trying to buy all 5 of them was obviously a pipe dream. The second item was to collect 10 million monarch crystals. The monarch crystal was a common currency in the great world, and it also contained some origin monarch chi. It could also be considered a basic cultivation resource. He had just entered a large world, so where could he obtain 10 million monarch crystals? This was almost equivalent to the wealth of a small sect. The third was even more terrifying. He would obtain the highest honor of a competition within a prefecture. The Great World was divided into 10 regions, and each region was divided into different numbers of prefectures. The prefectures would be prefectures, and the counties would be cities. The highest honor of a prefecture competition was absolutely impossible to ascend to the heavens. He smiled bitterly. Xiao Yan pointed at the scroll and said, Senior, are you kidding me? How could this be completed? The old man gave a mocking laugh and said, Do you know how generous the reward after returning to the academy is if you complete this holy rank trial? Xiao Yan shook his head blankly. The old man pointed at Xuan and the other 3 and said, Just them, they will be able to enjoy the treatment I enjoy in the academy. My strength is at the monarch emperor. In the Yunluo Academy, I am a 3rd grade elder and the cultivation resources I enjoy in the academy. It's many times better than the instructors of the ordinary students. As for yourself, you have the privilege of being a 2nd grade elder. In the academy, there were only a dozen or so rank 2 elders. You should be able to figure out how strong this qualification is. After hearing the old man's words, Xiao Yan's heart began to race. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and his heart began to waver. Of course, the holy rank trial is incomparably difficult, especially the last item. Even I might not be able to complete it. The Yunluo Academy has recruited hundreds of thousands of students over the past 100 years. Only a dozen or so students who have reached the holy rank trial have emerged, and they have safely returned to the academy after completing the trial. The old man stretched out 2 fingers. One of them left the academy 50 years ago. Right now, even I can only look up to their achievements. The other, if you can complete the trial within 12 years and return to the academy, you might be able to meet him again. Xiao Yan could not help but laugh bitterly. Meeting again, whether or not he could complete the requirement and return safely to the academy within 15 years was unknown. Dear Xiao Yan, Xuan eyes were full of worry. She looked at Xiao Yan and held his arm tightly. Zhu Kun said, It is too dangerous. Xiao Yan, we can complete our own trial. He thought for a while. Xiao Yan suddenly smiled and looked at Xuan and the others. He smiled and said, You guys work hard in the academy to cultivate. When I come to the academy again, don't be too far away from me. After saying that, he looked at the old man and cupped his fists. I hope Senior can take care of me. The old man laughed. You are a saint rank trial participant, their treatment in the academy is definitely not bad. Don't worry, I understand. Just as Xiao Yan let out a sigh of relief, the old man flicked a crimson scroll and said, according to the rules, this is a monarch skill for you. Because it's a trial participant from the sacred world, I can only give you a low-rank monarch art. Xiao Yan took the scroll and let out a bitter laugh. The monarch skill was divided into high-grade monarch arts, intermediate-grade monarch arts, and low-grade monarch arts. Each rank was divided into 4 grades, and this low-grade monarch art was the lowest grade. As expected, the holy rank trial was extremely difficult. If it was any other trial, he would at least be able to obtain an intermediate or even high-grade monarch art. Chapter End. Chapter 10. Flame Mantra Evolution. This was a boundless forest. Looking up, it seemed as if the entire world was covered by trees. This forest had existed for an unknown period of time, making it seem incomparably quiet. One could only hear the sound of the wind blowing. Suddenly, there was a burst of space somewhere, and waves of ripples spread out. In the next moment, the space slowly cracked into a fine crack, and a human figure fell down. The moment before he landed on the ground, his body stopped for a moment before he could barely stand up. Xiao Yan, who had fallen to the ground, first summoned his alien flame to protect himself. After that, he looked around and could not help but smile bitterly. The holy rank trial is indeed abnormal. It actually needs to start from Forest Domain. Forest Domain was located in the Forest Domain. The Forest Domain was located in the east of the Star Moon Spirit Domain. It was vast and boundless, and it was filled with countless dangers. Although the map given by the old man from the academy showed the dots of light that represented him, and it was almost at the border of the Star Moon Spirit Domain, this distance was enough to make one's scalp tingle. Can we get there in 15 years? Xiao Yan sighed, and then his eyes became determined. He felt the restless origin monarch chi in his body and said with a smile, I don't care about that anymore. Since we have already started to explore the big world, let's increase our strength first. After he had become a fighting monarch, he had stayed in the fighting chi continent for several decades. The foundation of the fighting monarch had already been stabilized. After the baptism of the transformation emperor gate, there were already signs of advancement. After running for half a day in the forest, Xiao Yan finally found a relatively hidden cave. The nearby trees were dense, and the tall weeds almost covered the cave. Xiao Yan nodded his head in satisfaction. Although his sovereign realm soul was greatly suppressed in the great world, he could still clearly see it within a 100-meter radius. After entering the cave, although it wasn't very big, it could still accommodate 1 or 2 people. It must have been dug out by a small devil beast. In the cave, Xiao Yan used the heavenly flame to easily dig out a huge rock and seal the cave entrance. After leaving only a few small openings for breathing, Xiao Yan clapped his hands and shot out a few fire beads to illuminate the cave. After that, he sat down cross-legged. Although the number of Xiao Yans in the cave would be greatly reduced, it was also the safest method. Xiao Yan did not want to die in the stomach of the devil beast as soon as he arrived in the great world. After adjusting his breathing, Xiao Yan quickly entered into a state of cultivation. He formed a finger seal with both hands. Very quickly, strands of origin monarch chi rushed towards Xiao Yan. When they passed through the purifying demonic lotus flame on the surface of Xiao Yan's body, all the origin monarch chi turned into the purest energy and drilled into Xiao Yan's body. Ever since he advanced into the fighting monarch, he had never enjoyed this kind of carefree cultivation for many years. Xiao Yan couldn't help but lightly exclaim. After that, he focused his mind and began to control the origin monarch chis that entered his body. However, not long after that, Xiao Yan was stunned. The origin monarch chi that had entered his body had disappeared before he could refine it. Xiao Yan didn't give up and tried several times, but it was still the same. The origin monarch chi that had entered his body mysteriously disappeared. Xiao Yan was shocked and somewhat uneasy. What's going on? Could it be that he didn't succeed after passing through the transformation emperor gate? Xiao Yan's heart was burning like fire as he mumbled. Just as Xiao Yan was in a state of panic, suddenly, his brows moved. He hastily closed his eyes and entered his soul into his mind, carefully feeling it. Soon, a dark red text appeared in his mind. The text trembled like flames. This was the cultivation technique that Xiao Yan practiced, flame mantra burning spell. At this moment, the origin monarch chi that appeared out of nowhere were crazily pouring into the mysterious text. Every time the origin monarch chi were injected into the text, the text would tremble slightly and the dark red color would change slightly. Xiao Yan was startled and mumbled, "Flame mantra burning spell, what's wrong?" Although Xiao Yan was very surprised, he was no longer afraid. It turned out that it wasn't because he couldn't absorb the origin monarch chi. It was because all the origin monarch chi that entered his body had been absorbed by the flame mantra burning spell. Seeing that the speed of the flame mantra burning spell absorbing the origin monarch chi had increased instead of decreasing, Xiao Yan took a deep breath. Immediately, he began absorbing the origin monarch chi with all his heart and injected into the flame mantra burning spell increased by a lot. When all the origin monarch chi turned from dark red to an indescribable pure red, the text suddenly shook, emitting thousands of golden lights. Xiao Yan hurriedly closed his eyes. After that, the golden light dissipated. Xiao Yan instantly felt an indescribable feeling, as if the flame mantra burning spell he was cultivating was truly a great world. The burning spell has become a sovereign rank cultivation technique. Sensing the energy fluctuation contained within the flame mantra burning spell, Xiao Yan's eyes revealed a look of shock, and he almost shouted out loud. The cultivation techniques of the Great World went from low to high, and they were divided into low-grade sovereign level, mid-grade sovereign level, high-grade sovereign level, and saint tier. Each level was further divided into 4 grades: low, middle, high, and supreme level. Although the burning spell had only become a middle-level sovereign level cultivation technique, Xiao Yan was still incomparably shocked. Could it be that the flame mantra burning spell has something to do with this world? Xiao Yan shook his head. Something like this. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to think of such a thing no matter how hard he tried. The fact that the flame mantra burning spell could evolve was also a good thing for him. At least, he didn't have to worry about the matter of changing his cultivation technique, even though the cultivation technique was very low. But at least it's a lot better than Heaven's art. Since he could refine the origin monarch chi that entered his body, he should break through as soon as possible. Chapter end. Hi guys, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.